Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jonasz Rybicki. With events on the international stage proceeding at a breakneck pace recently, Europe is forced to navigate a rapidly shifting environment. Case in point, Sunday's heated social media exchange between Poland's foreign minister and members of the Trump administration, which, by the way, threw the question of Europe's technological sovereignty into sharp relief. Some already say Europe needs to add an alternative to America's Starlink satellite system to its future shopping list, which already has an €800 billion budget for rearmament efforts. Against this backdrop, one also has to look upon European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's first 100 days in office. Joining us now to discuss this is Renata Mieńkowska-Norkiene, political scientist from the University of Warsaw. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning.
So first, let's briefly discuss this situation that took place on X between Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski and Elon Musk, and to a lesser extent also State Secretary Marco Rubio. What do you make of all this? The language of this exchange, especially on the American side, was rather unorthodox, should we say?
Well, I think that this is the style that the United States have launched recently. And I'm afraid that even though in Europe we are quite used to a little bit different kind of diplomacy, now we have to make this shift or change the paradigm. And it's not because we want it. It's because this is what the US actually does. Well, Elon Musk has become one of the most important people in Donald Trump's administration. And therefore, his words matter, whether we want it or not. That's a different story. And Radosław Sikorski, in my opinion, he actually reacted in the best possible way by first and foremost putting facts first. And actually, in reaction to his words, both Elon Musk and Marco Rubio, I would say rather in panic or, I don't know, in their own style, they reminded that, again, everyone should be thankful for whatever the US does, but they confirmed Starlinks will not be disconnected for Ukraine. And so I would only could praise Minister Sikorski for what he has done, because he has actually led to a situation in which we are now, at least for some time, sure that with Starlinks there will be no problems in Ukraine in the forthcoming days, weeks at least, which is a very important declaration. And I would say in foreign policy, in this Trump, let's say, led situation that we have been dealing with for the last few weeks, I think this is quite something. And I could only praise Minister Sikorski. I think that he's achieved something very important, even though it could have gone way worse.
So he actually did something that President Zelensky has failed to do. He remained quite calm in this exchange. He didn't go too emotional. Speaking of things emotional, though, there are many commentators in Europe who say that given the way that Trump has been acting, and he has made some controversial moves in recent days, again, we should actually acknowledge this fact, that because of this, Europe is facing a situation whereby we should completely decouple from the US, NATO perhaps might actually collapse. Do you think this is overreacting to some extent? Of course, Europe needs to rearm, but should we assume all of a sudden that the alliances have shifted 180% and all the old paradigms of foreign policy are no more?
I wouldn't say it's overreacted. I would say it's still underreacted. Honestly, I think that the European Union has been facing challenges which require absolutely fast and, well, I wanted to quote the title of the movie Fast and Furious, but we shouldn't be furious in this case, of course, because you mentioned the emotional reaction, which I fully understand in the case of Volodymyr Zelensky, whose nation is at war with Vladimir Putin. and it's Putin who is the aggressor here. We are not yet in this situation, and hopefully we never will be, but this requires definitely all possible, and honestly, there might also be, now looking still impossible, actions of the European Union. And I think it's still a bit too slow. I mean, of course, the shift in paradigm, which you mentioned, it's something that we haven't witnessed even during the pandemic or any time later. This is something incredible and extraordinary in lots of senses. However, I think that there are still a lot of challenges that we haven't noticed, and one of them can be maybe even leaving NATO by the United States. Of course, I don't want to make all those pictures that black, but what we are sure about is that Donald Trump is unpredictable. And I think that he's quite happy with all the mess he causes worldwide. Plus, he's definitely showing all possible signs of having an alliance with Vladimir Putin. And Putin is not interested only in Ukraine. If Ukraine loses, and it seems that even Donald Trump sends signals which point out that even though there will be, let's say, the agreement with Ukraine on those rare minerals, that Ukraine may still not be backed by the United States. If this is Donald Trump who says that, and he has said that,
He said
it
that
means
the
that we
US
cannot
backing.
be sure about anything.
Yes. I mean, he said that despite US backing, Ukraine could still fail to emerge
Exactly.
victorious, to prevail through this situation. But speaking of this, these accusations of an alliance, do you think that this is a tactical alliance? I'm asking because would you say that Trump would be simply willing to hand over anything to Putin that Putin demands, or is it more of a question of an equilibrium, i.e. he doesn't want Russia to become too weak vis-a-vis China, so that China would take everything, but then if Europe is too weak, if, say, Russia actually tried to capture other European states, that would upset the equilibrium as well, and also make another opening for China, perhaps. So do you think that this alliance actually does have certain limits there?
I don't think that there are certain limits to this alliance. I wish there were some, but I'm afraid that Donald Trump does not really think that far away in the future. I think that his perspective is both tactical, also strategic, but his strategy at the moment is to have a good alliance with Russia because Russia is big. Vladimir Putin is rather determined. He's the type of a politician. Well, we could call him, of course, criminal, but Donald Trump considers him a politician. And I think that he likes him simply, as easy as this. And Donald Trump's psychological, let's say, portrait and his hitherto, let's say, activities and actions, they do not give any hope to Europe that this is only any kind of tactics that may end up in actual equilibrium. Nothing, no signs show that Donald Trump is even ready for any concessions on the Russian side. So it seems that he has given Vladimir Putin what Putin wanted even before launching any kind of negotiations. So if we face this kind of a situation as the European Union, we not only can be concerned, but we need to act quickly. And, Ursula von der Leyen's first 100 days, they were, of course, very strange because until Trump appeared in the White House, we can say they were business as usual. But now it's a set of extraordinary moves, I would say, and extraordinary activities, which still sort of end up in this official statement. Yes, the US is still our ally, but I think that under the surface, where those statements are still there, most probably to gain time, I think no one, maybe apart from Viktor Orban and Robert Fico, is still delusional about the US. And I think that
But do
what
you
the
think
European
this is
Union has to do
delusional,
now is
though?
simply deal with it.
Yes, but I mean, the Trump administration has made it clear that they appreciate NATO countries that fulfill their obligations financially, such as Poland, for example. Would you
Yes.
say that this realignment of the United States, this transactional policy, would result in the US failing to support Poland if Russia decided to take military action, say, in the Suwałki Gap, a region that could be a flashpoint for conflict? Would you say that Trump would simply say, oh, we're not protecting you because something? Or is it more of a case of basically saying, okay, other countries within NATO need to step up because they're not paying, and I'm not going to support them if they continue to essentially fail to fulfill these obligations?
But it's the question is, okay, so Trump would support Poland because Poland has reached almost this 5% of GDP threshold of defense spendings. But how do you imagine Trump defending only Poland? I mean, Russia will not attack only Poland. It will attack NATO. Let's begin with that. That's the first thing. Secondly, it will not attack only Poland. The Suwałki region, which you are pretty well aware of, is between Poland and Lithuania. Lithuania also has large spendings, but then if Vladimir Putin attacks anyone, it most probably be also quite vulnerable Baltic states. There are also some signs that he might invade Georgia, Moldova, and maybe Romania. There might be so many different actions, or the Baltic Sea. How do you imagine that Donald Trump cherry picks one country? Oh yeah, we will help them by doing what? I mean, there are 35,000 soldiers basically in Germany now. There are a few thousand soldiers here and there. In Poland, it's 300 soldiers at the moment, American soldiers that are ready to take any actions. But apart from that, it's basically our European allies. And then Donald Trump will simply consider whom and whether to indeed defend. And honestly, he's unpredictable enough, in my opinion, to say, look, guys, I mean, you were supposed to take care of yourselves. And I think I will not risk, let's say, involvement of the United States. So sorry, but no sorry. And, this is this is absolutely a possible vision. I mean, after what Donald Trump has done hitherto, I wouldn't say that we can be sure about him defending countries which have sufficient spendings, in particular, since he has changed his mind also a few times until now. It was 2%. Okay, we will not defend those who haven't reached 2%. But now he's come up with 5%. Why not 10% or 50%? I mean, this is not something that we can even treat seriously. But of course, what we need is time in the European Union. And I think this is the biggest concern of everyone in the European Union, because if we don't have enough time to prepare, then it might be a serious problem. And the United States and the alliance with the United States, even if it's only on X or on paper, it's still something that buys us this time that we need desperately in the European Union. And Ursula von der Leyen knows it, even though Donald Trump does not want to talk to her, nor to Kaja Kallas.
Well,
he speaks
that's
with
one of the problems,
cherry-picked leaders whom he wants because he wants to divide the European Union. That's quite clear. Ursula von der Leyen still claims there is this alliance, and she gains time.
So one quick question. Do you think that this is a reflection of a bigger problem of the European Union still not being unified enough to actually present this united front? There were remarks, I think, by Henry Kissinger, who said that you do not talk to the European Union, you talk to leaders of Germany or France. Would you say that the European Union needs to step up in terms of unity in order to be treated as a single geopolitical entity?
Absolutely, yes. And I think that now there has been, at least in the last few days, there has been a desperate search for a leader, actually, of the European Union, because we know, of course, there is Macron in France, there is Keir Starmer, who is also a sort of star that has, let's say, this quite bright light also in the United States. We have Giorgia Meloni, who tries to deal with the situation on her own and also trying to balance somehow this loyalty towards America and towards the European Union. We have, of course, those those who are quite clearly on the side of Vladimir Putin, which is Hungary and Slovakia, but even those countries can be still kept in the European Union and provide us with the unity, most probably if, let's say, properly paid, because this is what these countries seem to expect. So I think the unity is something that we need the most, apart from time, because I mentioned time, absolutely, but we also need unity. And I think that Antonio Costa should be a little bit more active in this regard. He hasn't shown yet what he might actually do as a president of the European Council. But Ursula von der Leyen could be the one. She has all the abilities, she has all the mandates, she could be the one. But her problem is that she's still associated with Angela Merkel. I don't know why, because she hasn't had much to do with her for a very long time already.
Of course, this is a matter of political history, and Ursula von der Leyen now has an important role to play. For the time being, we have to park our conversation here. Renata Mieńkowska-Norkiene was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And I'm Jonasz Rowiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news and updates.